1st of July, as I said, and a range of changes are kicking in today that will affect everything from a KiwiSaver through to your commute. The parental leave payment is increasing slightly. Over on the job seeker side, however, things are tightening. Recipients will now need to reapply every 6 months instead of once a year. Some groups, like sole parents with older kids or long-term beneficiaries, will also face stricter reapplication rules. One of the biggest shifts is the KiwiSaver. The government's annual top-up has halved, now offering 25 cents per dollar, with a maximum contribution dropping to $260.72, and those earning over $180,000 are no longer eligible. 16 and 17-year-olds are now included in the scheme. ACC payments are getting a modest boost, up 2.89% compensation. And if you're catching the bus, brace yourself, public transport fares are rising across most of the country. And it's dry July, says Phil. One of the other big changes is mandatory healthy home standards, which all rental properties must now comply with. The rules set basic standards for heating, insulation, ventilation, moisture ingress and drainage, and draft stopping. Founder and director of Tenancy Advisory is Sarina Gibbon, and she's joining us now. Sarina, good afternoon.
Hey, Leah, how are you doing?
I am going very well, thank you. You work with tenants and landlords. Now that the deadline is here, Sarina, do you think the Healthy Home Standards is finally fit for purpose?
Depends on what the purpose is, right? If it is about actually giving tenants a better health outcome, look, unless the tenants are prepared to open windows, ventilate, turn the heaters on, actually live healthily using the hardware that's mandatory now, we're not going to see any sort of moving of needle on that. But if the purpose is to standardize the quality of rental properties across the board, because historically the property investment industry had just failed on self-regulation, I think, yeah, in that respect, it is fit for purpose. But let's not kid ourselves. Healthy Homes is a marketing name.
Okay. So what alternative would you like to see? What's missing?
Oh, well, I think what's missing is the correct levers and incentives in place that's actually going to encourage tenants to live healthily in the home. So it's just simple things like don't dry your clothes indoors, open up windows, ventilate, turn the heat pump on. I think at-risk families should, I'm super open to talking about, what is it called, electricity vouchers or some kind of tax subsidy to alleviate the costs of running these healthy home hardware. That's delivered in a very targeted way that will actually change people's lives. I think that'll be fantastic.
Geez, that would be, look, I'd love to get an electricity voucher, but I mean, are you talking for tenants, or are you talking for all? Who are you talking about?
I think realistically in New Zealand, if electricity voucher becomes a thing, I suspect it will be means tested. So I don't think you and I are in line for that.
I don't know.
But but look, I think if we are serious about tenants' well-being, because I do think it is obscene for anyone to be able to make a lot of money from substandard housing and human misery. So I think if we really are serious about tenants' outcome, then I think it's a collaboration between landlords and tenants. Landlords need to put the appropriate hardwares into the house to make sure that it is dry, it is warm, it is safe for the tenants to be in. But also tenants who have full control of the property themselves, they need to live in it by making some very healthy choices.
You've mentioned, substandard living and landlords making a lot of money. I mean, do we really, Sarina, have these slumlords? If there are out there, there's got to be a very small population
I
now.
yeah, I expect it would be a small population. Look, I was looking at some of the tenancy compliance and investigations team's figures on healthy home compliance assessments across the board, and bearing in mind that the TCIT targets high risk areas for compliance for their assessment activities, these numbers would be inflated compared to the average, right? So in 2024, roughly 50% of the houses failed on some aspects of healthy homes. But in this year, so far in this year alone, we're talking about a third. So the industry is moving towards the right direction. But, and definitely I think slumlords are few and far between, but, one is one too many.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know why they failed 50% last year. That could just mean they didn't have a ventilation thing over the oven or in the bathroom, and they could have failed for that. Otherwise, their house is tickety boo.
Yeah,
So if they're going to fail, I'd like to know why.
Yeah, and context is important, right? And I think we need more precise commentaries like yours just now, telling people, look, just because it's a fail doesn't mean it's a crappy house that can't be lived in, right? We need to be precise about, look, they're missing an extractor fan, they're going to put it in this year, and that's fine.
Yeah, because I've got to say, I've got a rental, and it's by law it's got everything it needs, but our house would fail. We don't have an extractor fan in the bathroom, haven't had for 20 years. Things are fine. Yeah. This is where I think sometimes this is a little bit, it's gone silly, because there are a lot of houses in New Zealand that, landlords might be living in themselves that wouldn't pass. Yeah. And then you've got things like putting in heat pumps, which the tenants don't use because they can't afford the electricity.
Yeah, and I think because of the few landlords who are able to profit off unhealthy housing for so long in New Zealand, and the industry had not self-regulated, the end result is the government came in with a super blunt instrument that ended up affecting absolutely everybody, right? Yeah. So going back to the top of the interview, it's not about giving people healthy homes, it's about standardizing the rental stock.
Yeah. Yeah. So every private rental in the country, legally, Kaingoa as well, have to be up to healthy home standards. Well, are there any loopholes still, Sarina, or not?
No loopholes, but in a way, the whole system is a loophole itself, because if we look at the penalty that's applicable for breaches to the healthy homes, it's only $7,200 a maximum, and that's a cumulative total for all 5 healthy home standards and 6 other landlord breaches. So, Leah, if you don't have one extractor fan, the maximum penalty that's applicable to you is $7,200. But if you fail on all 5 healthy home standards and you don't have smoke alarms, you don't abide by building law, the maximum fine is still $7,200. So the system is a big loophole itself. I probably shouldn't say this on a radio interview because I don't want to encourage people to breach the RTA, but the consequence of massively breaching the RTA is actually really cheap.
7,200 is still a lot of money to me. It goes up. We can go up to 50,000 for larger scale landlords, of course. So it swings between 7.2 and 50,000.
I'm talking about the penalty related to committing an unlawful act as to the infringement fine and the tribunal's jurisdictions. Those are 2 very separate things. Okay. But I mean, what I'm trying to say is, if you're a landlord who just absolutely do not buy into healthy homes, you're just intending on breaching, and rather than spending 5 figures to upgrade the house, why wouldn't you take a chance at being fined $7,200 at the very worst?
Yeah, but then
some landlords are making that.
Aren't you risking you get fined, and then if you still don't do it, you'll just continually get fined? Would you not?